All right, so just come into a seat and get yourself seated with your hips slightly elevated on your bolster or a block. Beautiful. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining me. And find elevation in your spine. So really allow there to be a sense of effort and intention in the way that you're sitting up, so that your shoulders are pulled back and resting down the back line of your body. There's a sense of uplifting through the front rib cage, the chest and the collarbones are really proud and smiling up towards the front and up towards the ceiling. Have your hands wherever you feel comfortable, resting in your lap or on your thighs. Eyes gently closed, and just notice if there's any effort in the way that you're holding your eyes shut. Notice if there is any effort in the mouth. Just allow the tongue to be resting softly so that that's not pressed up against the hard palate. If you need to, just take a moment to lick your lips and stretch open your mouth, and then allow the mouth to softly close so that there's no clenching at the back of the teeth. Just notice if there's any discomfort in your legs, your hips, your knees, your ankles. Acknowledge if there's any pain syndromes going on. Shift your position if you need to. And then just start to pay attention to the breath. I'm going to move through some dynamic movement this morning. But I really want you to care less about what the shapes look like and even what they feel like. Of course, I want you to feel safe and supported and good in each pose with a sense of strength and effort. But I really want the intention of your practice to be with your breath. Think in the context of what's going on in the world around us, there is so much happening outside of us. There has been a lot of confusion, having a lot of conversations with myself included around fear states, being uncertain, feeling really unstable, feeling like there's a lack of grounding within our own personal being, and really easily getting pulled and swayed by external forces. There's this collective swirling of energy, and I really just want you to come back to yourself, to come back into your body, to come back into the awareness that we're here in the physical form, that we can reconnect back with our higher selves by tuning into the soft, simple wisdom of the breath. The mind has so much to say, so just notice early in the morning what dialogue is playing out in the mind already. Notice if it's repetitive from yesterday or if there's new information. And just being that quiet observer. Even as I invite you into that space of being in that place of witness consciousness, of watching the thinking mind. See if you can keep resting in that place of awareness of breath. And start to softly manipulate the breath by consciously noticing and counting the breath. I'm going to work with samavriti, which simply means equal breath in and out. Working with at least a count of 6 if you can. So it'll be an in-breath for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And an out-breath, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If that count seems a little too fast for you, either slow the count down, or maybe you can work with a count of 8 or 9. Maybe you have the capacity to work up to a count of 12. Really slowing the breath down, giving it some space. I want to share with you this beautiful little quote by Jack Cornfield, Buddhist insight meditation teacher. It says, when you're overwhelmed by the difficulties around you, when you feel you are lost in the darkness, sometimes all you can do is to breathe consciously and gently with your pain and anguish, and know that with this simple gesture, you are resetting the compass of your heart. By taking that one simple, mindful breath, you can return again to compassion and realize that you are more than your fears and confusions. So the invitation is to just keep coming back to that one simple breath in your practice this morning, no matter what your body is doing. So just complete 2 more rounds of your breath with whatever count you're working with. And then maintaining as much presence with the breath as possible, we're going to start to transition over onto our hands and knees. We're going to come through a really simple flow so that we can start linking the breath with some movement. So just moving your props out of the way. Coming into tabletop, if you need to, just take a moment to extend your legs out behind you and stretch out through the back of your knees after sitting for 10 minutes or so. Maybe that's the longest you've ever sat in meditation. If so, well done. And we're just going to create a little bit of effort in the belly. So having your wrists underneath the shoulders, your knees underneath your hips, tuck your toes, take a big breath in. And as you breathe out, just hover the knees off the floor. so that just your hands and toes are touching the earth. Keep the back of the neck long, pull the navel to spine, and in that gentle effort, just start to find some fluidity in the breath. You might start to feel a little bit of fire, a little bit of tapas in the thighs, maybe in the belly, maybe in the shoulders, just keeping some rhythm in the breath. Even as the heat starts to fire up. And notice the tendency of the mind to start to pull away from the breath and into whatever experience the body is having. And when you keep staying in that simple awareness of breath, take one more inhale. And on your out breath, send your hips back into a downward facing dog. Come in super gently. You're going to be really cold and probably quite tight through the shoulders, the spine, and the back of the legs. And then start to find whatever movement you need in your downward facing dog to find a little bit more space in the body. So you might want to drop one heel down and then the other. You might want to wiggle out your bottom and your hips. You might want to roll forward into a plank and back into a downward facing dog. But I really want you to find some effort in the spine. So less about straightening out through the legs, which will likely curl your bottom under. Keep the knees bent. Press into the earth with the hands. Send your tailbone back so that the spine is long and straight rather than the legs long and straight. Give yourself a big full breath. And let all the breath go. With the inhale, roll forward to a high plank. Take yourself back into child's pose. So knees go to the edges of the mat, untuck the toes, hips sink back as you take the full exhale. In breath, draw yourself back up to tabletop. Tuck your knees, hover for a moment, and then on the exhale, downward facing dog. So that's the simplicity and the movement. High plank on the in-breath. Knees to the edges of the mat, untuck the toes, child's pose, hips sink over the heels. In-breath, rise back up, table, tuck the toes, hover the knees. And downward facing dog as you breathe out. 3 more of those. High plank, inhale. Child's pose, exhale. Tabletop, knees hover, in breath. Down dog, out breath. 2 more times. Each movement has an in or an out breath. Staying in the simplicity of the awareness of the breath. And we'll all meet in downward facing dog. Maybe now after a little bit of movement, there is a little bit more intention with straightening out the back of the knees, but maybe not, and that's absolutely okay. Take a full breath in. Let all the breath go. Rise up onto the toes. Come all the way to the top of the mat. Take a little halfway lift. Take the hands into the shins and push the shins away so that you can really lengthen out through the spine, so that you're staying in a tabletop, a flat back. Tuck the chin in, lengthen out through the back of the neck. We're going to stay here in the table for a couple of breaths. Pull the shoulders back so the front shoulder tips are really pulled back and down the back of the body. Navel draws to spine. Your knees are bent so that your sit bones are reaching back. Find the fluidity in the breath. We're going to get into a bit of single leg balancing today as a way to really anchor into this place of groundedness. So feel the effort in the feet pushing into the floor, and the power and strength in the back to keep the spine really long, which is super important to find a fullness in the breath. Give yourself one more inhale. Deeply bend the knees, take a forward fold, let the torso melt over the thighs. Roll up vertebrae by vertebrae, push into the ground, let your fingers drag down in front of the body. Come all the way to standing, give yourself a big breath, fingers to sky. Take a forward fold as you exhale. Halfway lift, totally okay for the knees to remain bent. Downward facing dog on the breath out. The right leg goes to the sky, keeping the leg super powerful and straight now if you can. Tiger curl, the knee curls into the center, shoulders stack over the wrists, foot between the hands, rise all the way up to a crescent lunge. Drop the back knee so it almost hits the floor. So you've got your hips, front hip, right knee, ankle in right angle, and a big deep bend in the back knee. Fire up the left butt cheek, press into the earth through the right foot. So you're feeling the pelvis and the belly in your legs super strong. Now find the fluidity in the breath. Full breath in. Big breath out. One more breath in. Take your hands to the floor as you breathe out. Reach the fingers forward. Take all of your effort onto your front foot. So the back foot's just on the toe tips. And then from there, lift the back foot up. So you're in a standing split. Right foot grounded, left leg behind you. Press into the right foot so that you can get as much power and effort through your standing leg. Really drive out through the heel on the back leg. That back leg being only as high as your butt cheek. It doesn't need to go any higher. It's totally fine if it's lower. And now in all of the effort and the challenge and the balance and the concentration, notice if you're holding your breath. And just keep coming back to that invitation to find one simple conscious breath. One more inhale. Bring the back foot to land at the top of the mat with your right foot and forward fold. Exhale. Halfway lift, press your hands into the shins, lengthen out through the spine. And we'll take it back to downward facing dog as you breathe out. Left leg sweeps to the sky. Inhale. Tiger curl, pull through center, knee to chest, shoulders stacked over wrists. Step through, fingers to sky, crescent lunge. Drop the back knee so it's just about to touch the floor. Use that intention to really square off the hips. Press into the left heel. Squeeze the right butt cheek. Fullness in breath. Final breath in. Hands to the earth as you breathe out. Reach the fingertips forward. Shift your weight onto your left foot. Drive up, standing split, right leg anchored out behind you. Just notice if you're super tight in the hamstring that you're in the standing leg on your left leg. If that's causing your whole spine to round and the back leg to drop, see if you can lengthen out through the spine like we did in that flat back in the forward fold. Really ground through your left leg. Find a sense of elevation through the back line of the body. Keep the left knee bent as much as you need to keep the spine straight. Notice if you're holding your breath. And come back to a simple, full, expansive breath. Amazing final breath in. Forward fold, top of the mat, exhale. Halfway lift, breath in. Really press into the floor. Lift the spine up. Tabletop back, flat. Downward facing dog. Roll through to a high plank. So come all the way up. If you need to drop your knees here, go ahead. Stay here for the breath out. Full breath in. Child's pose, breath out. Take the knees wide, untuck the toes, sink the hips back over the heels. Inhale, rise up, tabletop. Hover the knees like we did at the very beginning. Exhale, downward facing dog. Right leg lifts, in breath. Tiger curl, out breath. Crescent lunge, so step through, power up, fingers to sky, back knee bent. Big breath in. Straight into your balance, so reaching forward, lift the back leg, straight into your standing split. Full breath in. Touch back down, so left leg reaches all the way back where it came from, fingers to the sky, crescent lunge. Downward facing dog, out breath. Left leg lifts, inhale. Tiger curl, exhale. Crescent lunge, breath in, fingers to sky. Straight into your standing split as you breathe out. Inhale, stay. Exhale, touch back, crescent lunge. Fingers to the sky. Down dog, exhale. High plank, roll forward. Child's pose, knees to the edges of the mat, sink down, exhale. Tabletop, hover those knees, in breath. Downward facing dog, out breath. Right leg to the sky, inhale. Tiger curl, exhale. Just moving through that little sequence again, fingers to the sky, in breath. Standing split, out breath. Stay for the inhale. Touchdown, exhale. Fingers to the sky, in breath. Downward facing dog. Left leg in. Tiger curl, out. Crescent lunge, breath in. Standing split, breath out. Stay for the inhale. Touchdown, exhale. Fingers to the sky, inhale. Down dog. High plank, breath in. Child's pose, breath out. Tabletop, breath in. Tuck the toes, hover. Exhale, down dog. Rise up onto the toes. Walk all the way to the top of the mat. Take a half lift, breath in, press into the shins, lengthen the spine. Exhale, fold. 2 more of those. Half lift, breath in. Exhale, fold. 1 more time. Take your feet, heel toe them out to the edges of your mat. You may need to turn the toes out slightly and then sink your hips down into a malasana, a yogi squat. If you can't rest here easily, grab something to place underneath your bottom. This is, in my opinion, one of the most grounding poses. It's also such a primitive shape. Way before we had access to chairs. Really allowing the sit bones and the tailbone to ground down. Feel effortful in the way your feet are connected to the floor. So get your toes engaged. Really press down into the floor with your feet. If this is a really accessible pose for you and it's easy for you to sling down, find a little bit of effort, push into the feet and lift your hips up slightly, maybe just an inch or so that there's some power and strength through the pelvic bowl, the hamstrings, glutes. And ideally your spine is straight and your heart space is open and free. And if this is really challenging for you, notice if you've lost the fluidity of your breath and just bring yourself back. Big breath in. Full breath out. Big breath in. Stand tall, push into the feet, lift up all the way up into a mountain pose. Heel toe the feet back in to be hip distance apart. Fingers to the sky as you breathe in. Forward fold, exhale. Half lift, breath in. Downward facing dog as you breathe out. High plank in breath. Child's pose, knees wide, sink the hips down. We're going to stay here for 5 breaths. So have as much effort or as little effort as you like. You can either take your hands as far away from the body as possible, really plug down into the hands, elbows are off the ground, forehead to the floor. Or if you need this to be more restful and you're just focusing on working on getting flexion through your knees, you might want to just rest your elbows on the ground and sit your hips back. Wherever you are, notice where your mind is. Invite it back to that place of simple breath awareness. Allow the breath to soften the body. To notice whatever sensations are there. To be in that place of witness consciousness, to just notice, to welcome, to see and observe whatever's happening in the mind. All of it's welcome. You don't need to do anything with it. Just see it for what it is and then bring yourself back to the awareness of your breath. And you get to see in the simplicity of a yoga practice that there's this ebb and flow through power and effort and strength and then softness where the whole body can just surrender and relax. Let go, no holding on to what has been, just get to enjoy a rest in a simple, easy shape like child's pose. Soften the breath, watch the body and the mind. And just as the effort and the challenge doesn't last forever, neither does the rest. So coming back up into a tabletop position. Just tuck the toes so that you've got hips stacked over the knees and wrists underneath your shoulders. Send the tailbone back, almost like you're about to curl the spine, but don't quite take it there. So just send the tailbone back. Lengthen the crown of the head forward. Push into the floor so that you dome through the shoulders, almost like a cow pose. But then pull the heart space through the shoulders so that there is a little bit of effort in the collarbones reaching forward. Pull the navel to the spine so you're in a really flat back in your tabletop. Toes are tucked. Keep the left leg really grounded, so press with some effort into the left knee and the left toe, squeeze the left butt cheek, and send the right leg back. Right heel and ankle in line with the right butt cheek. Notice how your weight might shift more into one hand than the other. See if you can find some equal distribution of weight. Take a breath in. Stay here as you breathe out. Start to take all of your effort now into the right hand. You might want to bring your left hand onto the fingertips as an opportunity just to challenge the balance. And if you have the ability, I'm going to take the left arm forward. So now there's a polarization of the stretch. Right leg back, left fingertips forward. Keep the navel pulled into the spine. Take a breath in. And exhale, draw the right knee and the left elbow together in a tiger curl, squeezing everything underneath the body. In breath, open out. Exhale, tiger curl. 2 more of those. Open out on the 5th one, stretching out, 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 out. Back to hands and knees. 1 round of cat-cow, so opening up through the heart, stretching out through the spine, and then exhale, tucking the tailbone under, pressing into the floor, dome through the shoulders. Come back to neutral. Now ground down through the right knee, right toes, left leg stretches back. Just getting to watch and observe the quality of the breath. As a little bit more effort comes into the body. Shift your weight onto your left hand if you haven't already. And then if you can, reach the right arm forward. Ground out through the left heel, really stretching back. That left butt cheek should be pretty fired up. Right fingertips reaching forward, but the navel is still really pulled in towards the spine. Take a full breath in. Tiger curl everything into the center, power through the belly. 3 more of those. In breath opens out. Out breath curls in. Fifth one will take you back out. Exhale, tabletop. Cat-cow, open up through the heart. Big breath in, extension through the spine. Big breath out, flexion through the spine. Flat back, inhale. Hover the knees. Downward facing dog as you breathe out. Take a full breath in. Let all the breath go. Right leg to the sky, in breath. Tiger curl, breath out. Crescent lunge, fingers to the sky. So step your foot through your hands, lift up, all the way up, fingers up. Exhale into your standing split. Take a big breath in. Crouching tiger, so we're going to bend the right knee. So on that standing leg, it bends. The left leg follows, almost like we're going to come to a chair pose. So everything curls in. Left knee meets the right knee, but keep the left foot off the ground. The in-breath will take it all back out into the standing split. Exhale, crouching tiger, squeeze everything in. Bending both knees, both hips. In-breath, reaching out. One more time, crouching tiger, squeeze everything in. Now power up through your standing leg. We're coming all the way into stork pose. So it's coming all the way up onto a stance. Left knee pulls up to the chest. Watch the fluidity in the breath. Keep the breath really full. Ground down through your standing leg. You're lifting that left knee up as high as you possibly can. Big breath in. Dekasana, aeroplane pose. So it's like you're standing split, but your hands are off the floor. If you're falling all over the place, Hopefully you're smiling and enjoying all the wobbles and the challenge. Big breath in. Touch down into your crescent lunge, fingers to the sky. And we'll open out into a warrior two. As you come into your warrior two, your front heel intersects the arch of your back foot. Just making sure those feet are in a nice straight line. Take a reverse warrior. Left hand hits the back knee, right fingertips to the sky. Just open out through the side body. Come into extended side angle. Your right elbow to your right knee, left arm up and overhead. Slow the breath down. Full and fluid. Just coming back to the simplicity of the breath. On your next in-breath, reverse the warrior. Stay super low in the legs. Windmill your hands to frame the front foot, back into a lunge. Downward facing dog. Give yourself a big breath. Let all the breath go. We're going to take the right leg to the sky again, so stay on the same leg. Take the tiger curl, pull everything into the center. Foot between the hands, and then turn to face the left, so we come into a wide-legged fold. Take a halfway lift, fingertips kind of in line with your face around the edge of your mat. As you take the half lift, just like we've been practicing the whole morning, tailbone is back. You may need a little bend in your knees. Crown of head is forward. Navel is drawn to spine, so there is effort in the whole torso, shoulders back. The spine is as long as it possibly can be. Then if you can keep the integrity in your hamstrings and your spine, you may take a forward fold. If that causes a lot of rounding through your shoulders and lower back, I would say just stay up. Keep working on sending your sit bones back. Drop all of the breath into the belly. So the breath should be really full and supple in the belly here. Take a half lift as you take your next in-breath. We're going to go to the back of the mat, frame the left foot, and meet in a downward facing dog. Take a full breath in. Let all the breath go. Left leg lifts in breath. Tiger curl, pull through center. Crescent lunge, step the foot through, fingers to the sky. Exhale, standing split. Reach the fingers forward, drive that back leg up. Take a full breath in. Crouching tiger, bend both knees, pull the right knee in to meet the left. Squat down as deep as you possibly can. In breath, open out. Enjoy the polarization of this big expansive space and then this really contractive space in the crouching tiger. Got one more. Inhale, reaching back. Exhale, bend it in. Power through the standing leg. Lift the chest. Drive up, fingers to the sky. Stork pose. Right knee pulls into the chest. Watch the laboring in the breath as there's a little bit more fire and effort in the body. Find the fluidity and the simplicity of the breath. Big breath in. We're going to take that right leg back to fly into Dekasana or aeroplane pose. The arms sweep back behind you. Big breath in. Touchdown, crescent lunge. Right leg reaches back. Fingers to the sky as you breathe in. Warrior two as you breathe out. Reverse the warrior inhale, left fingertips to sky. Extended side angle as you breathe out, elbow to knee, right arm up and overhead. 3 breaths here. And then staying really low in the depth of that left hip, reverse the warrior. Frame the front foot, come back to a lunge. Downward facing dog. Left leg to the sky again, in breath. Tiger curl. Foot between your hands, and then find yourself to the side of your mat in a wide-legged forward fold again. Take the half lift to begin with. Set the integrity in the legs. So the legs are straight. If you need a little bend in the knee to get the butt back and keep the lower back flat, go ahead and do that. If you can keep the lower back flat and not curl the tail under to fold forward and collapse through your heart space, then you may fold forward. And we're going to stay here for 10 breaths. If any of you have a headstand in your practice, this is awesome time to go there. Ideally, you can access that without jumping up. So as your head comes towards the floor, you simply shift your weight forward onto your toes. Your spine is straight and your legs lift. If you're needing to jump to get in there, I would say stay in your forward fold. Whatever pose and shape you're assuming with your body, to keep the breath soft and full. And at the end of those 10 breaths, on an in-breath, you'll take a half lift. Walk back to the front of your mat to frame the right foot. Step the right foot back, drop your knees. Come and sit back on your heels, spine upright. And just notice the influence and the impact energetically of a forward fold for 10 big juicy breaths. I'm hoping you can cultivate enough pranic sensitivity that you can recognize that deep forward folds, even in those standing poses, in those standing balancing poses, even though there was a lot of power and effort, a lot of concentration needed to balance, as soon as you hinge forward at your hips and draw your lower abdomen towards your upper thighs, you're in a forward fold. So the energetic imprint of a pose category like a forward fold taps us into this space of calming, groundedness, centeredness. So when you take a forward fold for a while, like we have done lots of forward folds in our practice this morning, and that big 10 breath forward fold with the legs wide, I'm hoping you can sense this feeling like your energy is just really driving down towards the earth. If you're not sensing that, that is absolutely okay. We are going to come all the way over onto our bottom. Take our legs out in front. If you're really tight in your hamstrings, or maybe they're just a little bit sore because they've copped a beating this morning, you can take a block or bolster underneath your bottom. The elevation underneath your hips will help you to shift your hip bones forward so that you can get this effort of the legs driving back and the torso anchoring forward. So take an inhale. Let's take the fingers to the sky as we breathe in. Effort in the legs. And without curling the spine, so we're not collapsing the heart, I want you to imagine your lower rib cage is trying to be shelved on an invisible shelf in front of you. So we're not dropping them down. We're going to bring the whole rib cage up and forward to come over to reach either your shins, your ankles, maybe you reach your big toes. But as soon as you start to curl through the spine to reach, I want you to pull back. Keep the spine long. Drop the chin to the chest. Take a big breath in. Stay here as you breathe out. Big breath in. Stay here. Final breath. And now allow the whole torso to melt over the legs in whatever way that is achievable. Drop the breath down into the belly. Then bring back that 4, 6, 8, 12, whatever count you were working with at the beginning. Bring that back in now, tapping back into Samavriti, creating some gentle control of the breath just to equalize and neutralize the energy body through the conscious practice of pranayama or breathing, breath work. Notice how it's a little easier to access the fullness of the breath when the body is not so dynamic and so effortful. Just 2 more of those breaths, whatever count you're working with. There's no rush. Then you'll slowly rise up. Again, just take a moment to notice if you can cultivate enough sensitivity to recognize the influence of a forward fold. For me, it feels like all of the energy drains out of my head and really anchors down into my pelvis and my hips. And any jittery sensation or up sensation through the chest really anchors down into my solar plexus, into my belly. Coming down onto your back, draw your knees into your chest. Big breath into the belly. Let all the breath go. Place the left foot on the floor, knee up towards the ceiling. Right ankle crosses over the left knee into reclined pigeon pose. Just a little bit of effort into the right hip. It might be enough for you to get a decent stretch in the back of the right hip with your legs here. If you're wanting to shift where you're feeling that stretch and take it a little deeper, you can draw the left thigh towards the body. It's making sure you keep that right knee pressed back I anchor my right elbow into the inner right knee to keep that knee pressing back and away whilst drawing that right ankle towards my body by pulling that left thigh in. The invitation now that all of the dynamic movement and flow and constant change and effort in the body is really settled down, is to just keep coming back to one simple conscious breath. Breathing in, breathing out. And as the mind flitters off into thought, starts to plan and prepare, problem solve, consider whatever your day has in store for you, the invitation is to just keep bringing your awareness back. Release that right leg, hug both knees into the chest. And we're going to take a spinal twist, knees to the left. Keeping the legs stacked. So it's a simple, easy twist, the right shoulder ideally connected to the floor. Big full breath into the belly. Big full breath out. One more breath in and out. And then on the inhale, come back to the center. Just make sure your spine is in alignment, shoulders and hips. Drop the right foot to the floor. Left ankle over the right knee, opening out through the back of the left hip now. And then if you're wanting to deepen that stretch, draw the right leg towards the torso, keeping the left knee pressed away. Just be in that place of witness consciousness to notice the tendency of the mind to start to flit off into and away from your practice. Just keep inviting yourself back. There is plenty of time today to think and plan and consider all that needs to be done. The invitation is to just stay here for the last 5 or so minutes of your practice. Releasing, and then take a spinal twist to the right. Left shoulder plug down to the floor. And 3 breaths here in your twist. An in-breath will bring you back to center. Hug your knees into your chest. Take any final movement you need. And you can come and lay flat on your back for Shavasana. I'm going to come up into a seat. So if you wish to take a meditation seat for the last 5 minutes, you're most welcome to join me there. So coming into your final resting pose, whatever that might be. Regardless of whether you're flat on your back or taking a seat, give yourself a really big, full, conscious breath. Let all the breath escape. For a fleeting moment, allow the edges of your mouth curl up into a little smile. And rest in that place of soft awareness. Perhaps like me, you can tune into the beautiful sounds of the morning, the birds singing vibrantly outside my door. And taking a moment to just scan and tune in to the wisdom of the body, noticing if there's any tension, discomfort, pain. Just allowing it all to be there. Noticing the softness in the breath, the fullness. And the mind is welcome to continue tuning in to that invitation of just noticing the next breath, and the next breath, and the next. If you are in Shavasana, give yourself a full breath in. And a big breath out. And start to bring some gentle movement in your body, just enough to awaken enough effort to be able to curl over onto your side and gently make your way up into a seat. If you're already in a seat in meditation, just noticing the breath, and start to expand your awareness a little more into the sensations in the body. And then drawing in more information from the external environment, letting your auditory sense bring in sounds from within your home and beyond. Keeping anchored in that simplicity of the awareness of the breath. The world and our lives seem pretty chaotic and complicated, but we can keep finding our center by just keep coming back home to ourselves. Take a left hand on your heart, right hand on your left. Just holding yourself in that place of awareness as you breathe in and out fully. When you're overwhelmed by the difficulties around you, when you feel you are lost in the darkness, sometimes all you can do is to breathe consciously and gently with your pain and anguish, and know that with this simple gesture, you are resetting the compass of your heart. By taking that one simple, mindful breath, you can return again to compassion and realize that you are more than your fears and confusions. Mr. Jack Cornfield. Take a full breath in. Let all the breath go. And bowing head to heart in honor of yourself, your commitment to yourself through the commitment of this practice and to one another. Namaste.